up over $100 and still rising. But how long can Palantir sustain? Here to talk more about what is going on with this company is MarketBeat analyst Chris Markoch. Chris, you've been a Palantir fan for a long time. Did you ever think it would get to this point this quickly?
I didn't really doubt that it would get over $100 a share at some point. To get here this quickly, yes, that's somewhat of a surprise to me.
Yeah, and I think those other investors who are excited about Palantir
Mhm.
are wondering, is it always going to stay above 100, or can we expect this pullback to come because it rose so quickly?
I look at Palantir right now and it's trading around $106 as we tape this, Bridget. I look at it a little bit like people looked at Bitcoin when Bitcoin went over $100,000. You get to that big number, 100,000 for Bitcoin, $100 for Palantir. It's a psychological number, and it's important that you get past that number. However, once Bitcoin got to 100,000, it pulled back before it started making another run, and it's been kind of chopping along there. I sort of suspect you're going to see the same thing with Palantir. That doesn't really have anything to do with the company or the quality of the company. It just has to do with you've hit $100. The stock, by any objective measure, is overvalued. That doesn't mean it won't go higher or couldn't go higher, but I would suspect you're going to see some choppiness in it before it makes any sort of sustained push higher.
Yeah, in fact, Chris, I remember doing a video with you just a few months ago where we asked, could Palantir hit $50? And
Yeah.
that was really recently.
Right. That's the whole point. You've seen analysts throughout the year. One of the most bullish analysts is Dan Ives of Wedbush, and he's been raising his price target for the last year. He was at $50. He was the first one to say $50. And then he bumped his up to $60 and then to $75. And just recently he bumped it up to $90. And all along, everybody's thought he's crazy. And then every time he's been proven correct.
Why is this company soaring to $100 so quickly?
People are starting to think about AI in terms of what's the second wave of AI. NVIDIA is the first wave, and that wave still has further to go. That's where we're building out the infrastructure for AI, the GPUs that power these LLMs. That is how AI is trained. But once you train the AI, it's not particularly useful to a company unless there's a way to make their personal data accessible to the AI. And that's where Palantir's offerings come in, through Foundry on the commercial side, through Gotham on the government side, through their proprietary LLM, the AIP. All of that is weaved in with Palantir's proprietary ontology, which, as their CEO, Dr. Alex Karp, says, it makes your enterprise accessible to AI, which is really kind of a unique way of thinking about it, because we think of AI being the master and we're the servant. And this is kind of twisting that model around, saying, no, for AI to actually be able to serve us, we have to have things that make it accessible. And that's what Palantir's technology does.
It's so interesting. I know you've talked a lot about the AI
Right.
companies that are finding success are the ones who are finding applications to make AI useful to people.
Correct.
And that's essentially exactly what Palantir is.
That's exactly what Palantir will tell you they are, unapologetically. They'll say they help make AI useful to companies. It's the Palantir customers that are basically being their biggest champions. They're the ones saying, yes, we're using it. Look how it's helping us. And that's basically helping Palantir get other customers. Keep in mind, Palantir doesn't even have their own direct sales unit built out yet. And they're getting the kind of numbers that they're getting right now. Imagine what that's going to be when they have a fully staffed direct sales unit going out and actually acquiring customers.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. Some of the best leads are when you have your own customers telling
Exactly.
others about this company. I think that's a great point to make, Chris. Let's get into what that means for Palantir's financials. What came out of earnings that has investors so excited?
They beat earnings per share, which was already a fairly lofty target of 11 cents. They beat that by 3 cents. Quarterly revenue was 36% higher year over year. It exceeded estimates by over $46 million. They closed 129 deals in the quarter that were worth at least $1 million. And of those, 32 deals were worth over $10 million. The company's growing both the commercial side and the government side. That's a key, because a lot of people felt that Palantir was too reliant on the government. Revenue on the commercial side grew 31%, government revenue grew 40%. And then there's this thing called the rule of 40 that software as a service companies use as a metric, and that's their revenue growth rate plus their profit margin. Palantir's jumped 19% to 81%. I can't even tell you, Bridget, how phenomenal of a number that is. That's almost unbelievable for a company to have a rule of 40 score of 81%. And they ended the quarter with $5.2 billion in cash on hand without any debt. If you're going to poke holes in the earnings report at all, some people poke holes in the fact that Palantir uses a lot of stock-based compensation to reward their employees. But really, when you dig deeper into the report, that's really nothing to be concerned about. Palantir's been doing it for years. And if you're a retail shareholder, you've been doing just fine.
I think investors out there might be wondering, well, I feel like I missed the boat on Palantir now that it's over 100. If you're looking for more AI affordable picks, we have a video we just did about 3 AI stock picks for under $50 right now. Check out that other video. And if you're looking for more AI stock ideas, check out our free premium report on 7 AI stocks for beginners to really start getting invested in. You can scan the QR code or click the link in the description to get that free report right now. Okay, Chris, let's get into this stock chart because it truly is impressive.
This is the stock chart in just the last, we'll say, 3 months. This was around the time of the last earnings report. It shot up. Now, that was really a lot of the Trump effect. This was right around the time when he was coming in office. There was a lot of enthusiasm. Here, right around the end of December, when it hit a peak, it fell off about 10%. It was climbing back. It hit that level, and now we have the spike right after earnings. Anytime you see a move like this in a stock, you can expect that there's going to be some degree of a pullback. And that doesn't have anything to do with the quality of the company or its stock. I wouldn't be surprised to see Palantir pull back into the 90s, chop around somewhere in there until there's some sort of catalyst that's going to move it higher. Now, I say that, and I could be wrong just as well as I could be right. But I think if you see Palantir dropping below 100, getting into that $90, that might be the time to think about getting involved.
I think a lot of our viewers watching this video right now already have Palantir stock and are excited to see it doing so well. But maybe you're watching this video and you haven't gotten into this company yet, and you're trying to figure out what all the hype is about.
The story for them is the same as I just outlined for current shareholders, and that is, because a lot of the current shareholders, you have to understand, Bridget, they were buying Palantir when the stock was at $8. And if you bought it there, your cost basis is such that you're probably not looking at buying a lot of shares right now. You're already way up and you don't want your cost basis to go up that much more. But if you're new to the stock, again, I think the advice is the same. You want to look for maybe a little bit of a pullback from here, but you're not going to want to wait too long because, again, Palantir's had that way of defying the expectations, and if you wait too long, you're going to miss the next big move higher. But I think it's going to be perfectly appropriate that you might see 10 to 15% pullback, and that sounds huge, but in the case of Palantir, that would be pulling it right down again to around that 90-ish level, and that would be an attractive price target to move in at. So I'd say anywhere you can get it in the 90s, probably a good idea to start thinking about starting to buy in at that point, because really right now there's no reason to believe that you're going to see a lot of retail investors selling the stock.
I think I want to wrap up the conversation today, Chris, with not ignoring the elephant in the room.
Right.
And that's kind of the shifting discussion around AI investing and the DeepSeek impact that a lot of investors have been changing the way they're investing in AI. Do you think Palantir could be impacted by some of those shifts?
Before Palantir's earnings report, I was listening to an interview that Dr. Karp gave. I think he gave it on CNBC, I believe was where he gave it. And they were talking about DeepSeek. And one of the reasons why I was really interested about this Palantir earnings report is because Palantir is agnostic as far as what LLM a company uses. But Palantir really doesn't care which LLM you use because the LLM is really kind of just a toy. It's something that companies can kind of play with, but without something like Palantir software and Palantir's ontology, it really isn't necessarily adding value to the organization. DeepSeek is real, and it's evidence that companies that are basically operating on second principles, they can copy technology, they can copy what others have done and built, and they can make it more useful. And that's what DeepSeek is trying to do. They're trying to show we can make it cheaper and we can perhaps make it just as good as any other LLM out there. But there's always going to be a need for companies that are the first, that operate on first principles, That's what Palantir does. When I think about DeepSeek and Palantir, that doesn't really bother me at all. When I look at DeepSeek in terms of other AI companies, I think it really just focuses on the fact that you're going to be always wanting to still look for the companies that are trying to innovate.
Some really important points there, Chris, and just a good time for Palantir fans like yourself
Yeah.
to celebrate the stock and the success it's seen in the last year. We'll continue to watch here on MarketBeat how far Palantir can go. Thanks again for watching here on MarketBeat, and as always, happy investing.